Lesotho, a mountainous sanctuary in southern Africa, offers a tranquil escape from the continent's turmoil. Despite economic challenges, Lesotho maintains its independence and unique character. Poverty is deeply entrenched, with almost half of the population living below the poverty line. Urban centers are increasingly dangerous, but Lesotho's inspiring rural landscapes make it hard to stay in towns. Tourism is developing, but the people are incredibly friendly, and the pace of life is enticingly relaxed, making it a promising holiday destination for cautious travelers. Number 1. Lesotho's LGBTQ+ landscape is complex, with a history of ambiguity and social stigma. While homosexuality is no longer illegal, discrimination and social unacceptance persist. Discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity is not explicitly prohibited, leading to marginalization. Local attitudes towards homosexuality are often negative, and openly gay relationships or affection between same-sex couples can attract aggressive and violent attention. To ensure safety, LGBTQ+ travelers should exercise caution and discretion in public, research local customs and laws, and connect with local LGBTQ+ organizations or allies. Planning carefully, considering safety and comfort, is crucial. Although attitudes towards homosexuality are improving, much work remains. Education and awareness are essential to promote understanding and acceptance. Policy reforms, community support, and international cooperation can empower Lesotho's LGBTQ+ community and advance their rights. Number 2. Crime in the city. Most people visiting will just be passing through the cities on their way to one of Lesotho's beautiful farm lodges. Even so, urban crime is probably the biggest issue for tourists. The threat of crime in the capital Maseru is considered critical by the U.S. Department of State. Nearby border towns of Maputo and Lhasa are not much better. Strangely enough, increased security in South Africa due to the 2010 FIFA World Cup has contributed to crime in Lesotho. Ramped-up border security has remained in place, and criminals who used to slip over to hit wealthier South African targets are now being forced to look closer to home. In addition, lots of Lesotho men used to enjoy good incomes as miners in South Africa. However, as the mining jobs dry up, these guys are returning home in hordes and settling in the city centers. Inadequate jobs and income mean even more are turning to crime and desperation. Unfortunately, with South African raids off the menu, tourists stand out as an alternative source of easy cash. As always, avoiding this situation entirely is preferable. Keeping a low profile is a good start. If possible, don't go out by yourself. A lone foreigner is a tempting and vulnerable target. Try to conceal your cameras and any jewelry as much as possible, and it's best to take a cab if you're carrying lots of luggage. You shouldn't spend much time on the streets after dark, and definitely don't stray off well-lit and busy streets. The stretch between Maseru's hub of hotels and the business district is notorious for robberies. High unemployment means there are groups of men loitering all through the streets in most cities. And, while we're not in any way suggesting they're all criminals, it makes it hard to pick out potential threats. Nights and weekends are the most dangerous times, but daylight robberies are becoming increasingly common, so don't assume you're safe in the sun. You'll need to keep on your toes at all times in any Lesotho city. The last Friday of the month is payday in Lesotho, and you should be especially careful heading out at this time. Alcohol-fueled arguments and violence are a threat as people head out to spend some of their pay. More people on the streets and more money in pockets means more thieves as well. Knives are used in most robberies, but gun crime is on the rise, especially in Maseru. If you are targeted, don't put up any resistance. Thieves here have no qualms about using violence to subdue you and get what they want. Hand over your things quickly and quietly. If you have a bag or a big camera, it's a good idea to throw it away from you rather than wait for them to grab it. Changing your attacker's focus can give you time to escape, or at least help avoid a potentially violent close-quarters encounter. Number 3. Windows up while driving. Lesotho's sometimes slow and unpredictable transport and some fairly rugged terrain means many tourists end up hiring a 4x4 to get around. While this can save you putting yourself at the mercy of Lesotho's maniacal minibus or combi drivers, you will need to take care to secure your car. Vehicle theft is common in Maseru especially, and if you leave the car unlocked even for a moment, you're likely to lose it, or at least whatever's inside. Number 4. Steer clear of smugglers. The majority of tourism in Lesotho is focused on the magnificent mountain trails and epic scenery. Hiking, horse riding, and cycling tours are the big draw cards, and so travelers generally spend most of their time in isolated rural areas. Unfortunately, these isolated rural areas are also used to grow marijuana, or daga, which is a big problem in the region. Smugglers then use mountain trails to slip into South Africa and sell their product. The Drakensberg Range in the east is particularly popular with daga smugglers and livestock rustlers, who will duck over the border to nab some cattle and lead them back home. While a donkey train or cattle herder high in the mountains might be a promising photo opportunity, it's best to give them a wide berth. If they are criminals, they are unlikely to appreciate the attention. Leave them alone and you should get the same courtesy. The threat of livestock theft can also affect your stay in rural towns. Tourist accommodation is generally very secure, with lodges surrounded by fences and patrolled by security guards, but the farmers rely on guard dogs and their own vigilance to keep their crops and flocks secure. Wandering around towns or farms late at night can put people on edge and isn't a great idea. Number 5. Lock up your luggage. Lesotho's Mosho Shoe. International Airport in Maseru is tiny. The only flights coming in leave from Johannesburg in South Africa. Unfortunately, baggage theft and tampering is a problem at Johannesburg's airport, especially on some of the smaller airlines like those that service Lesotho. Even if you're continuing overland to Lesotho, it's a good idea to have locks on your bags or to use a luggage wrapping service. Take any electronics or valuable items in your carry-on. They're less likely to get damaged this way as well. Laying your luggage out and taking a picture or cataloging your things before a trip is a handy way to keep a record of what you took away and can help you pick out anything that's missing. Pickpockets can be a problem on Lesotho's crowded buses and combis as well, so be sure to keep an eye on your bags while traveling. Number 6. If you're attacked. The Lesotho Mounted Police Service, LMPS, keep the peace across the country, but limited funds and personnel mean you can't really rely on them for a rapid response. If you are the victim of crime, you'll often have to go to a police station to report the incident or pick up an officer and bring them to the scene. The prevalence of HIV and AIDS infection in Lesotho, as much as a quarter of the population is affected, means you should seek immediate medical assistance in the case of any violent attack or sexual assault. Because of the heavy burden HIV/AIDS places on Lesotho's already inadequate medical facilities, it can be more efficient to head over the border to South Africa for treatment. Bloemfontein is the nearest major city, just 1.5 hours from Lesotho's western border. If you're in the east, Durban's your best bet. Number 7. Cow in Lesotho is valued above money. Meat in Lesotho is a rare delicacy for many households. Milk, too, is rare for most households. Starchy diets are common for poor households with animal sources of protein, mainly meat and milk becoming a rare prestige for those rich few who can afford it. A cow, being the primary source of animal proteins, makes it highly valued. With a cow in the compound, you are full cycle in terms of food self-sufficiency and a balanced diet. Considering that most of Lesotho live in rural areas, the bulk of their money will be used to buy food with less incurred on traditional clothing and shelter. If they can have a food source in sufficient supply, why would they bother about money? Number 8. To avoid the cost of importing food from neighboring South Africa, most families in Lesotho raise their own wheat, corn, cabbage, pumpkins, and peas, etc. Lesotho is relatively rocky and mountainous with a few locations fit for large-scale arable farming. Most farming is small-scale. Food production is hardly enough to satisfy domestic consumption. On the other hand, food imports from South Africa are quite expensive, and can wipe out households' entire income. This makes every household, especially in rural areas, to do its best to become self-sufficient in food production. However, the vagaries of drought, accompanied by overdependence on rain, can drive households into the dependence of food imports during the drought season. Number 9. Lesotho is home to one of the scariest airstrips in the world. Lesotho is home to one of the most intimidating airstrips in the world, the Matakane Airstrip. Situated at an altitude of approximately 2,500 meters, 8,200 feet above sea level, this airstrip is renowned for its challenging landing conditions.